Okay, so we all know weather,
Yeah.
right? Like it could totally make or break a picnic. But did you ever stop to think about how it impacts pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just talking about, you know, needing to grab an umbrella on the way to pick up your prescription.
Right,
We're
right.
talking about an industry where, like, seriously, temperature going up and down or a hurricane
Mm-hmm.
could be the difference between life-saving medicine showing up on time
Yeah.
and, well, disaster.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't really think about that connection
Right,
until you really start to like dig into it.
right.
We're talking about these super complex supply chains with tons of moving parts, medications that have to be stored perfectly,
Yeah.
and like clinical trials that need predictable conditions, to even work.
Oh, absolutely.
Weather can really throw a wrench in the whole thing.
It really does. And it's actually costing them, I was floored when I saw this, like billions of dollars every year.
Yeah.
And that's not just, a couple soggy boxes here and there.
No.
That's a big problem.
It's systemic, yeah. And that's a challenge that, companies like Tomorrow.io are taking seriously.
Yeah.
They're using all this crazy technology, real-time data, predictive analytics, even AI to turn that weather risk
Okay.
into like a strategic advantage.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. See, I was reading this article from tomorrow.io, and it was really eye-opening.
Uh-huh.
Like, they really get into how much weather, like how deep its impact is on pretty much every single part of how pharmaceutical companies do their thing.
Yeah.
Like, even just starting with supply chains.
Yeah.
We've talked about hurricanes shutting down production, which is like, yeah, terrifying.
For sure. For sure.
But what about like a snowstorm
Right.
that can delay those deliveries? And that's a big deal.
Totally. And it gets even more complex than that.
Okay.
You have to think about the temperature changing while things are being transported.
Oh, right.
Some medications, they're super sensitive.
Mm.
And if they get even a little too hot or cold, they might not work as well.
Wow.
That's a huge deal for pharmaceutical companies that are, really trying to make sure their products are safe and they work.
Yeah, it makes you think about those little warnings on the bottle, right?
Yeah.
Like store at room temperature.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I really get it. It actually reminds me of this one time I was traveling and I accidentally left my medication
Uh-oh.
in a hot car.
Oh, no. So what happened?
Let's just say I spent the rest of my trip trying to find another pharmacy. Not fun.
Yeah,
It just goes to show those storage directions are there for a reason.
big time. And it's not just about keeping them at the right temperature when they're being shipped.
Right.
It's the whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the factory to the warehouse to the pharmacy to, the hospital.
Yeah, it's like this ongoing battle with Mother Nature to make sure everything's good.
It really is.
Wow.
Then on top of all of that, you've got to factor in the fact that you never really know how much of a medication people are going to need.
Oh, right.
Like a mild flu season.
Yeah.
That means companies might end up with way too much medication.
Okay.
But then a sudden heat wave could lead to shortages of certain things. It's all connected.
It's true. I've never even thought about that, but it's like, of course.
Yeah.
Companies are always trying to guess how much medicine people will need,
Right.
and weather is like this total wild card.
Exactly. They have to be able to change their plans quickly, and that's where something like Tomorrow.io can really help.
Okay.
They can help companies predict those changes in demand and be ready for them.
So we've got supply chain issues, changing demand. What else did this article mention?
Well, they also talk about how weather can actually affect how well the medications themselves work.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about heat here, like humidity.
Right.
Humidity can be a silent killer of some medications.
It's like it has it out for medication. Okay, sorry, bad joke. But seriously, that's not something I would have thought about.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though. Medications are chemicals.
Right.
And humidity can mess with that.
Totally. And then there are external factors like, how much sunlight the medication gets exposed to.
Oh, interesting.
Some medications are really sensitive to light and have to be packaged and handled a certain way because of it.
See, that I get.
Yeah.
I am like the sunscreen queen.
Right.
Never thought about medications needing that, too, though.
It's wild, right? It's like a whole other level of stuff going on that most people don't even know about.
Yeah.
And, we haven't even gotten into the whole thing about weather and clinical trials.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I mean, those things are so sensitive,
Yeah.
so regulated, and if the weather's not cooperating, it can totally derail the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not like you can ask a blizzard to wait until the clinical trial is over.
Exactly. So as you can see, the pharmaceutical industry has a lot to think about when it comes to weather.
Yeah.
It impacts them at every stage of the process,
Wow.
from making the medicine to getting it to the people who need it.
It's like weather is this, like, silent but mighty partner in the whole pharmaceutical world, whether they like it or not. But wait, if there's solutions out there,
Right.
that's where tomorrow.io steps in.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tomorrow.io is coming in with some really game-changing technology that's super important for this industry.
Okay.
It's not just about helping pharmaceutical companies survive bad weather.
Yeah.
It's about helping them actually use it to their advantage.
Okay, now I'm really interested. So how do they do it? What is it that they're doing differently?
That's the cool part. Their whole strategy is built on a few key things. First off, they provide real-time data. But, like, this isn't your average weather app. We're talking, like, super localized,
Right.
super detailed information that's always being updated.
So instead of just saying it's going to rain,
Right.
they're telling you how much rain, where exactly it's going to rain, and for how long. That's amazing. Like, what would that look like in real life?
Totally.
Yeah.
Imagine a delivery truck, right, carrying a bunch of temperature-sensitive medication, and then, bam, it gets caught in this sudden downpour.
Oh, no.
Right? With Tomorrow.io's real-time data, the pharmaceutical company can actually track that truck. They can see the temperature inside,
Wow.
and they can make a decision right then and there to keep those meds safe. Like maybe they reroute the truck or delay the delivery, or they can let the place where it's going know so they can be ready to put it in storage right away.
That's amazing. Talk about dodging a bullet. It's like having a guardian angel for your pharmaceutical deliveries.
Totally. It's like having, a weather-aware team watching over everything all the time.
Okay.
But it gets even cooler.
Okay.
Because Tomorrow.io doesn't just stop at real-time data, right?
Right.
They kick it up a notch with something called predictive analytics.
Okay, now we're talking. Real-time data is awesome if you need to make a quick decision.
Right.
But being able to see problems coming before they even happen,
Yeah.
that's some next-level stuff.
Exactly. Think of it this way. It's not just reacting to, like you said, a downpour.
Right.
It's knowing that that downpour is likely
Right.
days, even weeks in advance. They use all this historical weather data, some really fancy algorithms, and really smart modeling to kind of get ahead of the game and see what could happen.
So it's less about, putting out fires and more about stopping them before they even start.
Exactly.
That has to be incredible for planning and just dealing with risk in general.
Oh, it's huge. Like, imagine, a big snowstorm is headed for a manufacturing plant a week out. That gives the company time to make more products ahead of time.
Okay.
Maybe move some inventory to a safer spot, or even just figure out how to keep things running smoothly if there are transportation delays.
Wow, it's like they're giving these companies a superpower to outsmart the weather.
Yeah, in a way they are. And it's not even just about avoiding big disasters, right?
Right.
It's about making everyday operations smoother. So, for example, let's say they know a certain route is going to be super foggy.
Yep.
They can just adjust delivery times, maybe even choose a different way to go, and boom, the medications get where they need to be on time and in perfect condition.
Talk about planning ahead. So they're taking this crazy complicated thing, the weather,
Yeah.
and making it understandable
Yes.
so companies can actually use it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Exactly. And to make it even easier to use, they have this customizable alert system.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So basically, you can decide what's important to you, set your own specific limits for things,
Okay.
and then the system will let you know if you're about to go over those limits.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Could you give me like a real world example?
Sure. Imagine you're a company shipping medicine that, like we said before, is super sensitive to temperature changes. With Tomorrow.io, you could set an alert for any time the temperature inside the delivery truck goes even 1 degree above or below what it should be.
So it's like having this like super powered thermostat for your deliveries.
You got it. And if that temperature budges even a little, bam, you get an alert.
Wow.
Then you can jump on the problem before it ruins the whole shipment.
That's amazing. It's like a 24/7 lookout for your entire supply chain. What else can this alert system do?
Oh, it's not just about temperature, right?
Right.
You can set alerts for tons of stuff, like if the humidity gets too high, if the sun's going to be a problem on a certain route,
Okay.
even if there might be like a big storm that could cause delays.
It's like they've thought of everything. But with all this detail, I mean, that must be a ton of data,
Oh, yeah.
right? What's so special about Tomorrow.io's data?
That's a great question. What makes them different is, like you said, the detail they provide.
Okay.
This isn't just, it's going to be hot or it's going to be cold.
Right, right.
They're giving you really specific local information on things like dew point, UV index.
Okay, I'll be honest. Dew point isn't exactly a term I use every day.
Uh-huh, fair enough. But in the pharmaceutical world, it's super important.
Okay.
See, dew point tells you exactly how much moisture is in the air.
So it's more precise than just saying how humid it feels.
Exactly. And that matters because for some medications, even a little change in humidity can make them less effective,
Gotcha.
especially when you're storing and transporting them.
So knowing the dew point helps these companies keep their products from getting ruined.
Exactly. And when you're talking about medicine, that level of precision can be life-saving, literally.
This is fascinating. And what about apparent temperature?
Oh, right. So that's the difference between the actual temperature and how it really feels outside
All right.
when you factor in humidity and wind.
So it's like the thermometer might say one thing,
Yeah.
but it feels totally different when you're actually out in it.
Exactly. And pharmaceutical companies need to know that because even if the actual temperature seems okay,
Yeah.
the apparent temperature might be a different story,
Okay.
and that can affect their products.
Wow, there really is a lot to keep track of. And Tomorrow.io is bringing it all together in a way that's really easy to understand and use.
That's the goal.
What about UV index? I know that's a big deal for us humans,
Right.
but I had no clue it was a thing for medications.
Yeah. Some medications are actually super sensitive to light,
Really?
and UV rays can mess with the ingredients and make them less effective.
Wait, so it's like medications can get sunburned? That's wild. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a real thing. That's why some medicines come in those dark bottles
Right.
or need to be kept in certain conditions.
So that's where Tomorrow.io's UV index data comes in. They help companies keep track of that during transport and storage.
Exactly. They can see the UV levels along the routes,
Wow.
at the warehouses, even at storage facilities that are outside.
Okay.
That way, companies can make smart choices about packaging, routes,
Yeah.
and where they store things to minimize the risk of UV damage.
That's incredible. It's like they're creating this protective shield around the medication
Right.
to keep it safe from the elements at every step of the way.
It's about making the entire supply chain stronger and more responsive
Yeah.
so that it can handle these challenges.
This is really amazing stuff. Who knew that weather information could be so important,
I know, right?
especially for something as crucial as medication,
Absolutely. And it's not even just about saving money. It's about keeping patients safe
right?
and making sure those life-saving medications actually get to the people who need them
Right.
when they need them in perfect condition.
I am completely with you there. This has been so eye-opening. So we've covered how weather impacts pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And we've talked about how Tomorrow.io is using technology and data to help them.
Yes,
But why now? What's making this type of innovation so important right now?
that's an important question. And the answer is pretty simple. Our climate is changing.
Right, it's the big thing no one wants to talk about, but it's happening.
Yeah, we're seeing more crazy weather, more unpredictability, more disruptions.
Exactly, and it's only going to get more intense in the future.
Exactly. So for these companies, it's not just a nice to have, it's becoming a necessity.
They're dealing with climate change head on,
Absolutely.
and they need every advantage they can get to adapt and be successful.
The companies that use this technology, the ones that use weather intelligence to be proactive and resilient,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are going to thrive.
So what's next for this type of technology?
Yeah.
We've got real-time data,
Yeah.
predictive analytics,
Yeah.
AI-powered alerts. I mean, this is like something from the future. What's next?
I know, right? Things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
But the future of this tech is really exciting to think about.
Okay, give me a sneak peek. What might we see in the next few years?
Well, imagine if AI and machine learning could take these solutions even further.
Okay.
It's not just about systems that give us data, it's systems that can learn from that data and make themselves better.
So it's like a weather-aware brain that just keeps getting smarter and smarter. I'm nerding out a little over here.
Uh-huh. It is kind of like that.
Okay, keep going.
Imagine a system that crunches all this data, past weather, real-time conditions,
Yeah.
even things like traffic patterns and global events
Wow.
to make even more accurate and nuanced predictions.
So instead of just knowing there might be a delay, it could tell you the absolute best time to ship something, the best route, maybe even which driver's most likely to get it there on time because of their track record in similar conditions.
You're getting it. It's like we can start predicting the weather's every move instead of just reacting to it.
This is amazing. We're entering a whole new world of weather-informed decision-making.
Yeah.
But this isn't just for pharmaceuticals, is it?
No way. This kind of technology can be used for so many things. Think about agriculture,
Right.
transportation,
Right?
energy, even retail. Weather affects everything.
It's like we're moving away from worrying about the weather all the time to actually using it to our advantage.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
It's a really cool field to be in.
So we've been talking about how it impacts pharmaceuticals, but this kind of weather tech, I mean, it goes way beyond that, right?
Oh, for sure. The possibilities are basically endless. We've mentioned a few, but let's really get into it. Like, what about agriculture?
Yeah.
Talk about an industry that's completely at the mercy of the weather.
Right.
Imagine if farmers knew exactly when to plant, when to water, even when to harvest, all based on super localized forecasts.
That would be amazing. No more just hoping for the best.
Exactly. And it's not just about the plants.
Right.
Think about the animals.
Oh, right.
Knowing a heat wave is coming means farmers can make sure their animals are safe
Yeah.
so they don't lose any.
It's like, yeah, making smarter decisions for sure, but it's also about, like, not wasting stuff.
Absolutely.
Using resources better and making the whole system more resilient and sustainable.
Exactly. And speaking of sustainability, what about energy?
Oh, yeah.
We're moving towards things like solar and wind power,
Yeah.
and knowing what the weather's going to do is super important for that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, imagine being able to predict exactly when we'll have more or less wind and solar power.
That would be huge.
Right.
No more blackouts or, like, power shortages.
And for people who have solar panels on their homes,
Yeah.
they could actually get the most out of them. Like, get an alert that's like, hey, tomorrow's going to be super sunny. Make sure your battery's charged up.
Okay, I want that app. I can already see the headlines. Weather apps. Saving you money and saving the planet.
Haha, right. It's closer than you think. And we can't forget about transportation either.
Right. We talked about deliveries, but what about flying?
Exactly. Airlines could use this data to avoid turbulence, save fuel, even make better decisions about delays so people aren't stuck waiting.
Okay, now that I can get behind, no more surprise delays because of, like, unexpected wind.
Right. And it's not just about efficiency either. It's about safety, too.
Right, of course.
Knowing the weather can help prevent accidents, whether it's driving, flying, even sailing.
It's like having, like, a weather-aware guardian angel.
Yeah.
Okay, so much to think about. Any final words for our listeners today before we wrap up?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that we live in a world that's always being impacted by the weather, right?
Yeah, that's not going to change anytime soon.
But instead of being scared of it, we can learn to understand it, predict it, and even use it to our advantage.
It's not just about the weather controlling us anymore.
Exactly.
I like it.
It's a powerful way to think about it.
Well, on that note, for our listeners who want to explore this more, we'll put a link to the tomorrow.io article in our show notes so you can check it out.
Yeah.
Until next time.